Actually, you know, my name is Helmut. When I go into a coffee shop and I say my name is Helmut, this is what I get. It's a supplier risk, yeah? So all versions of Helmut, Helmut, Helmut. And when I was a kid, I really was annoyed that my parents gave me that name. How can you give such an old-fashioned German name to a kid, yeah? And yeah, I much more preferred my nickname, which was Heli, like the helicopter. That was cool, yeah? And yeah. And when I started at work in an international environment, it didn't get better. It was Helmut, is your name? So, yeah, but it didn't stop me to continue in an international environment and to work with companies like Johnson & Johnson, MSD, Smith & Nephew. And what I realized in the beginning of my career was that I always was quite proud about being in control of things, doing a role, doing a good job, and then also coming to the next level and being promoted and then taking more and more responsibility. But it was at a certain time you reach a level in an organization then where you realize, yeah, now it's very much, yeah. So for me it was when I was responsible for the whole end-to-end planning of a huge business, a 20 billion business with a big team, with a SAP ERP implementation going on in that area at the same time, a big organizational change where you shift your teams between two different countries. One team moves into Switzerland, another team moves from Switzerland into Holland. And a lot of stakeholders that really are all having their needs, yeah? So senior management, maybe they are looking at achieving your quarterly results. There may be a project team that wants to drive the transformation roadmap that is given and that needs to, that there is your team, which is a little bit in the firefighting, which also wants to get some clarity on the organization. So everybody is pulling from different directions. And what I think you realize then also, it's not possible anymore to be in control of everything, yeah? There are so many needs, so many moving parts, and actually you may feel stuck. And for me, actually and this was around 10, 15 years ago, it was really where I felt that I was stuck. I was in an office and I couldn't move anymore my hand. I didn't see clearly anymore and I had difficult to talk. So this was, luckily, then the doctor came and said, yeah, relax, no issue, everything good, but your body has given you a sign. And this is for me where I realized, okay, the body has given me a sign. I can't be in control on everything. You need to navigate the complexities of the business in a different way. So you cannot assume that for everything there is one right solution. And for every problem, every risk that you have, there is one right solution. But the higher the complexities are, the more the needs are from the stakeholders, the more solutions there are. And you need to find good solutions, not the perfect solution, and you need to navigate from one good solution to the other solution. And this is also where I then started, okay, with that experience, to look at also at totally different concepts. I liked, Ruben, your breathing exercise. I started to look at mindfulness, yeah? It's really, what do I sense in the body? Yeah, I started to look into nonviolent communication because a lot is also in partnership. Yeah, so it's also with other people, with your stakeholders. How do you build relationships? How do you work around conflicts? And so an idea emerged where I realized, okay, when I was in control, I always had my tools. I had my methodologies. I had my Six Sigma, my Lean, and everything. But as soon as there is this uncertainty, I didn't see a lot what you can do really to navigate through and with well-being, being engaged, being happy, and also in a good relationship with the teams. So therefore, I started, I still was then maybe 5 years in corporate organizations, but 6 years ago, I started then to build this idea and to build a framework that also in a very systematic way would look how to really also navigate in a complex environment. And so actually, it's about enterprise governance. And I think some of you have already touched it also. If we at risk is also, I think also in the last presentation now, Eva looked at it very much into enterprise governance, how to then really come to decisions and follow through decisions. And what I realized it's always, if you have a team that is really engaged and with the heart in it, then usually it works and the performance will come. So therefore, I looked into concepts and I looked, okay, usually if we need to take important decisions about supply risk, yeah, what is the context where we are, or any decisions in an organization? So at the end, you can have 4 different contexts. So if something is very predictable, then it is the simple context. So just, yeah, I have 20 people for a meeting. And I have a meeting room of 5 and a meeting room of 30. Which one will I take? Yeah, it's obvious. I take the big one, yeah, unless I will want to have it very cozy. So that's a simple context, and decision in a simple context. Complicated is also like simple. It's linear relationships between cause and effect. So I know if I do this, this will happen. This is very mechanic approach. And for complicated context, I need some expertise. So I need experts that know what are the standards, what do I need to do, who understand this complicated cause and effect relationships, and then accordingly, who can take the right decisions. Complex means there are not such clear relationships. So there are many different factors. It's like a living organism, like the human body or like a garden, yeah? I have different factors that really drive what will be the result. If I plant a tree, yeah, it's sunlight, it's water, it's maybe some insects, or so I need to somehow then cultivate that and make sure that I get the right output. But it's not any more linear relationship, but it's entangled, yeah, between what I put in and what I get out. And it's not easy for even an expert cannot really understand what will be the growth of a tree next year or so, because it's a complex issue. And then chaotic, that means really now, yeah, we do not understand at all anymore cause and effect. Yeah, so there is, and actually, for the chaotic, it's really the best thing. You do something, you look, does it work? And then, if it works, you do more of it. If it doesn't work, you try out something new. Yeah. For complex, it's more you try a little bit around in the garden, what works, what doesn't work, and then you see, you sense. And then you respond accordingly, yeah? In the complicated, yeah, you have your experts, they do some analysis, and they will make sure you have the right solution. And for the simple, it's just common sense usually that is enough for the simple context, yeah? If we now look at organizations, enterprises, what is an organization? An organization has also some decision-making structures. If you build an organization is basically you have a shared vision of what you want to achieve in an organization, and you do a concerted effort in order to achieve that. So if you build an organization, typically you would already build 2 structures. The one is on the right side, the leadership-based structure, functional structure. So you say, okay, we have an organization, we have a big scope. You take care of the customer relationship. You take care that we have a product, stable supply, and at the right quality. So there is the CMO, there is the COO. Somebody needs to look for the financial health. You are the CFO, so you have the functions. And then you create your departments, and you have reporting lines. You have clear decision-making escalation rules. So you always escalate to your supervisor, person-to-person relationship. And actually, this decision-making structure works very well in chaos. Yeah, if I have a fire brigade, I want to have a very senior person with a lot of experience on top who takes decisions, who tries out things, who looks, does it work, does it not work, a clear command, and you need to be very quick in deciding. So therefore, for a fire brigade, that's the optimal decision-making structure, yeah? Also, if you build an organization, you get a second structure, which is the informal structure. So we are people. We have our background, we have our history. We may even have a relationship with each other. In some companies, private relationships. I'm a neighbor, professional relationships. We worked already together at another company. So you also automatically get that structure. And in that structure, yeah, that works very well if you have some decisions that are simple, where you just need common sense. Then you don't want to be too bureaucratic. You don't want to escalate. You just say, okay, let's just do it. And that works also very well. I think the issue in many organizations is if there are risks and opportunities is that they depend too much on these two structures. Yeah. So what does it mean? So how many of you have done a travel request approval for this event to come here? Yeah, so quite a few people, yeah? So, yeah, I have seen that many times, yeah? And sometimes it was the supervisor, but I had also cases where in a multi-billion company, it was escalated to the COO for everybody in the department, yeah? So basically, for a travel request, you say, okay, I do not trust enough that common sense is enough, because there may be some people that misuse the system and they go in every conference because they like it so much. So maybe that's not good enough. But what are we doing? We use then the other extreme. We use a hierarchical structure where we escalate and where we take the time of the COO to look at, I don't know, or maybe his secretary, or looking at many travel. So a total waste of time, also not empowerment. So it's the wrong structure, yeah, for that. So it's a simple context, but we sledgehammer to crunch a nut, yeah. Another example. A CMO may be out of business. Yeah, so you heard something on the coffee machine. We are your informal network. I had also a case like this. Somebody heard it, and what did they do? They talked to the sales director. Hey, I have some news. I heard something. Our US supplier may be out of stock. Let's just make sure we secure all the inventory for our local market for 1 year, and we will not have a problem. So, yeah, but of course, this is a complex issue, yeah? There is a CMO, there is materials management, there's inventory management, there is commercial teams in all the countries and so on. So I take a very simplistic decision for something that in reality is very complex, yeah? If a CMO really goes out of stock and for a few months there is a supply issue. So also here, since there are just these two structures, it's, yeah, people get very creative. So, and I think the structures that are in between are, on the one side, for the complicated systems, it's really standard work. And we had a lot of presentations also where it was about standard processes. We need to map processes. We need to know the races, who is responsible for what. We need to measure. So just we saw a lot of KPIs. Also, we need to measure what is the input to the process, what is the process itself, how it's performing, how are people adhering, how efficient is it, what is the output of the process. We need to have trainings defined for everything that is complicated so that people can manage that. So, and also we need to have monitoring mechanisms, and we need to have some governance structures in the case there are deviations that we can correct them. And also we need to take learnings out of these processes. So also some governance processes for improvement. So that really we can take the improvement. So for for the example that I said about the travel requests, I think it's a very simple standard work process for financial planning that can be applied, where people then are empowered, the supervisor empowered to take the decision, and where everything is fine. So therefore, for things that are complicated, standard work definitely is something that is a good investment. And I think we have seen some great presentations today where teams really invest proactively into those processes. In the complex areas, it's different. And this is really where cross-functional team alignment is necessary. So I think there are some processes like sales and operations execution or integrated business planning, which also Carsten has mentioned today, IPP, or also some other people. So if you really have then issues that are complex, there are many stakeholder needs engaged and so on, you need to bring the specialists together on the table. They need to get a common understanding what the issue is, and then also come to common decisions, well, whatever the risk is. But as soon as the risk is getting complex, it's very important, because you cannot just manage everything via the functional hierarchy. You can do it for really urgent cases where you need firefighting, but most of the issues in a business are actually in this complex space, but very often they are treated in a different way. So I told you that on this framework. So the helicopter again, the helicopter view. This is why the company is called HELIBLICK, because I think a very important element to really navigate through these 4 decision-making structures is awareness. The first thing is I need to be self-aware. So like me in that moment, what's going on with me? Am I functioning? Yeah. What is my body telling me? What are my motivations in this moment? What are maybe behaviors that I show when things are not going as I want? What are shadow behaviors that I show? What are typically best self behaviors that I can contribute to a team? What is triggering me? So these are all things that are about self-awareness. How do I function, and what is the role that I play in this whole system, and to really be able to look at it from a meta perspective. The second one is system awareness. So I think knowing what is now the supply risk I'm talking about, in which context is it, I can then also decide, well, what decision mechanism should I have? Do I need a cross-functional meeting? Do I need a task force like just presented? That would be also in this most probably in the complex or maybe even chaotic area. Or is it just that I can set up systems that take automatically in a very efficient way the decisions, which is why the standard work is so important to really drive efficiency and predictability in an organization. So here also having the system awareness and also understanding the interdependencies across the organization, and also what is the impact of a risk, which stakeholders would be affected and so on, how big is it and so on. This is all what would be covered under system awareness. These are 2 enablers, I think, that are absolutely critical to build if we want to improve here. And then I have seen 3 things. So I've worked with a lot of teams that achieved a lot. And sometimes things come just naturally to these teams. And I realized these teams, usually they have 3 qualities. And I put them, the helicopter and the 3 ships. The 3 ships are entrepreneurship, partnership, and mentorship. If you have a team that has these 3 qualities, these are teams that usually are engaged, they are thriving, and they are driving results. Yeah. With entrepreneurship, I mean you are clear on responsibilities and you are clear on accountabilities. Responsibility means in standard work, I know the processes, I know which function does what, everything that is repeatable, I know exactly who does what. Or also if I define action plans for improvement, you are the action owner, you're responsible to do that, and I can rely on you. This will drive efficiency and it will drive also trust. Accountability is where some people struggle more. Accountability is I really know what is the purpose of my role. Why am I here? What is my role in this company? And I work in the spirit of this purpose. Yeah. So if something is not in the job description, it's not clear, but I still, until my customer and my stakeholders are not happy because I know what is in my role, I will just not stop, and I will take this accountability. So accountability is especially in this complex area important, where things are sometimes gray, they are entangled, to really understand what is the purpose and how can I make it happen, yeah? Partnership, the second ship, so here it's especially about how do we work together. And I put two enablers into here, which is co-vision and co-creation. Co-vision is we have a shared vision. Very often, if you go through a transformation or if you do business together, you have your financial dashboard or you have a financial business case and you say, this is why we need to do that. But very often, this is not really inspiring people. They are not emotionally in it. They ask, what really does it mean for myself? Yeah, and how will it affect me? And maybe I had already similar transformations and it was not successful. So they emotionally do not buy in. So therefore, it's also important to address this and to have a co-vision where people analytically and emotionally buy in. And co-creation is also very critical because co-creation for me is the highest level of conflict resolution. And running a business and mitigating risks and opportunities is nothing else than having conflicts, conflicting needs from here and there. So running a business is conflict resolution, yeah. And what can happen with conflicts is conflicts can be avoided, and suddenly, if it's an important conflict, it explodes, and then the conflict will be treated in a very aggressive way. And then it gets personal, judgmental, and everything, which doesn't really help in a business environment. So co-creation means that we learn to identify conflicts, tensions between different needs. We bring them on the surface. We are able to prioritize them, but also then we have a way as a team together to go into a co-creation to then, as soon as we understand what is the issue, we can define together a strategy. If you first, everybody comes already with their own functional strategy and finance says, inventory must go down. The commercial team says, okay, we need to deliver to the customer, so customer service is everything. So at the end, if everybody already comes with a very fixed need, then it's just about who is the smartest, who is the most powerful. But it will be a destructive conflict. If you before consider all of those needs and then you work a solution out how you can make all of that happen in the best optimal way, then usually you come to much better solutions and also much quicker. And the final one is mentorship. Mentorship is about learning, a learning culture. So the first capability is essentialism. How many people are in a meeting that shouldn't be in a meeting? How many projects do we have in our project portfolio review which are really just cats and dogs and not really essential? How many issues are we covering, supply risk issue, in the same way in enterprise planning meetings, but there are some that are really small and some that will make all the difference for our customers. So it's this capability to draw a line. In everything that we have to draw a line, to say this is essential and this is where we do some extra care, and this is not essential, even if it's important, but we need to draw a line because our resources we spend on the things that are essential and everything else is part of the daily business, and we even accept if we don't have the optimal results because we took as a team the conscious choice, this is not essential, yeah? And this is also a mentality shift, but very important to put the resources really on the things that make a difference. And then evolution. This is about mimicking evolution in biological ecosystems. So also in an organization, and I think we have also seen some great examples already in the presentation, but it's really to to be clear, what is my dream vision on where I want to be, where are we today, very honestly, and then to say, what is the big next step? So to really to have governance processes that allow you to go step by step towards your dream vision as an organization, but always just one step, not a 5 years roadmap, but really that you go step by step and you always sense also where are we now and what is emerging now. And we do not stick to a plan that we maybe have done 1 year ago where we didn't have all the knowledge yet that is needed. So this is the framework, and yeah, and maybe on some examples also on how can you then make this happen, that you get these enablers. So if you look, for example, at self-awareness and co-creation, when I was still at corporate organizations, I once did this model of sprint in a team where I had worked for a long time, and this is a motivational model. So basically it tells you how are you motivated in many situations, yeah? For me, for example, this is my user manual that we developed, so a one-pager user manual. I very much like clarity. I like to have things clear. Even if it's bad news, I like clarity. This is usually in many situations very important for me, and also structure. There are other people that like to achieve goals, or to be autonomous, or to have safety, or to have harmony in many situations, or to be respected and recognized. And so it's very different. And in a team usually, so there are 9 different of these motivators, but usually you have a mixture of people. And if you are not aware, this can be very difficult if you are in a conflict situation, because, for example, I had a boss who liked to have the goals achieved and who was autonomous. I'm somebody, clarity, structure, I'm talking a lot and so on. So if I know that, okay, I give you first your 3 bullet points, but then you will listen to me. Yeah, because I think at the end, I also want to achieve the goal, and my boss also wants to get clarity. Yeah, but just having this awareness, and this is also self-awareness, to me, it helped myself to know in many situations where I felt stressed, it's clarity that I need, but also then in partnership, it can help a lot. So in the co-creation. So because if our motivators are not met, what is happening? We react emotionally. So we flee, freeze, or fight. Yeah. So in a business, if you flee, we avoid the tensions and we just let it go until it's exploding. Freeze is what I actually did. I freeze a lot when I try to get clarity, but this was then that really my health also at a certain point was affected by it. So, and fight is also in a business environment. If you fight and say, okay, we need to go for this and so, and you have a narrow focus and you just fight for one of the needs that is in a game here, it's also not well perceived. Yeah, it's the most visible one, but also the other ones, for the mental health and for the well-being of the team, they are definitely not recommendable. So that would be one thing how, and this is most in the personal development. All the other things, I think, are not looking so much into the person, but they are looking into the system more. So if you look, the next one is, how can we get more system awareness and co-vision? So here, somebody was talking before on a Sherpa approach, which I quite liked, yeah? Sometimes you may get in a Sherpa to just look at your enterprise on how you take decisions, yeah? What is the state of your standard work? What is the state of how do you take short-term decisions on supply, long-term decisions on supply? How do you make sure you have also governance processes for improvement? So the best thing to understand that is not to get a consultant in who will tell you what is the best practice and what other companies start. The best thing is to ask your leaders and to ask the change agents that you have identified who really will drive the change. So really to ask each of them one-to-one, what would be ideal from your view on what this organization should achieve, on how supply risks are managed, what is currently done, what for your function are the biggest pain points that you have, and also if you look 6 months in advance and we want to make a big evolutionary step, what are the things that you would do? And if you have a team of 15, 20 people, leaders, and also those people that are really in the functions and driving the change, and you mirror that them back, you give them, this is what you said, and they suddenly start to see, okay, my input has been heard, but also I hear the input from the other functions, and it all makes sense. And then I start to have this shared vision that I really know. And this is, I think, for every transformation, a good starting point. If you then have really a shared vision with where emotionally people buy also in, I think this is the best starting point for a transformation. If you don't have that in a transformation in the beginning, then I think it's already a risk. And this is actually, you see here a lot of the enablers I addressed, and it's a very simple thing. But this is what I realized. If you have an issue, usually I worked a lot with lean, root cause analysis, and so on. But what I realized then is, yes, this is all great things, and it has really helped in Six Sigma, but usually it's for the complicated space, not so much for the complex space. So in the complex space, we need to do sense making. What does it mean, sense making? Sense making means, so simply, this template is what, so what, now what. What are the facts? What is the situation? What is this supply risk that we have? To really describe it in a fact-based way, not judgmental, no interpretations, just what is the situation, so that everybody else would also say, yeah, these are the things that I have observed, these are the facts, and so on. So this is a good starting point. Then the next step is very often switched, because then usually even senior management jumps to solution. This is what we need to do now. This is the problem, yeah, because then we start who is right, who is wrong. Now we'll do in the sense making, who are the stakeholders that are involved in here? What are the needs of the stakeholders? How are they affected? What is the impact on them? And only after we really understand for each of the stakeholders, what is the impact, what are the needs, what are we talking about, also in terms of financial impact and so on, we can move forward. And my experience is, if you have done the second stage on sense making, then it's very easy to find who are the right decision makers, who are the people that can contribute. As soon as the cross-functional team has really understood what the challenge is and what is at the stake, they will be able to find a solution relatively quickly. If you do it the other way around, you do a fact problem statement, you send it around, you get a ping pong email, you get 20 ping pongs back with more and more people, and at a certain point, yeah, you try to make sense out of the situation, you read it, you invest an hour to read the email, but you do not really get half of the information, yeah? And so therefore, this is a very pragmatic approach that from the beginning you try to get the picture together, and also you do this sense making before you jump into solutions. Yeah, and finally, the last one, this is now really old elements. If you really want to go through a transformation and you want to include all the elements. So this is a real case study that I did with a retail company in Switzerland, so also production company. It was about integrating and doing a SNOE IBP implementation and so really improving the enterprise decision-making processes. And here it has elements of what we have seen before. So first you would do this fitness check to see where are we, to just get a shared vision, and then to already know who are the people that are driving the improvements, and then to define a next target condition. To say in 6 months, this is where we want to be. And for me, the highlight was when we did this target condition, actually we had defined around 8 work streams. We had 40 target conditions defined to say, okay, in half a year, this is what we want to have. And then we had a next question. So we presented to the CEO, and the CEO was asking, but 40 things that seems unreasonable, yeah? From And then somebody in this team stood up who was known as very skeptical and said, no, we will deliver that. We have discussed that and we will deliver it. And that was the moment where I knew this would be a transformation that would work. And I think you set really the stage already at the beginning. If in the beginning you can have that alignment within a team, then I think it will make everything else easier. And then it's about setting always target conditions, having governance processes, but also there is these target conditions that we make up with our knowledge today in a workshop, and there is reality. And if in reality on the production side suddenly you have big problems because there is a breakdown or because you have issues with raw materials or whatever, then it's also important to adapt. So therefore it's also important to have weekly processes, and there is no problem to change target conditions. Usually the target conditions, so 80% you would achieve, 20% you would decide to do something different, but it's also important, this sense and response, so that you do not say this is now our fixed plan, this is what we need to do, but also to always adjust and to always have the pulse on the operations and on the things that are really happening, and also to create the space that you can adjust the course as needed. Yeah, and I think this is really something where all the enablers then are included. So yeah, also for your information, there will be a leadership program. So I'm working also with Daniele Kema. So we are developing currently a leadership program where we go much more in detail into those topics. And also just for an IBP, I have seen somebody who is here from the, we also have an IBP, Integrated Business Planning Practitioner Network, which is cost-free and where everybody is also invited to join. So we had yesterday call number 75 already, and so it's just an additional offering if anybody's interested, because I think it's great, this networking and exchange. So yeah. So thank you very much, and yeah.